Hello, maltsters of Maltoratos, and thank you to Andreas Niegemann for that malt mention. Welcome to Ralphie Review 999 extras here in the Bothy, somewhere in the Irish Sea, and I've just basically finished reviewing this very fine old single malt. Which, despite the fact that it's had a price increase recently, and I managed to get in and buy the bottle before they had the price increase, compared to many other whiskies, it does represent relatively good value because it's not an attempt at style over substance. You've not got this disingenuous flannel marketing trying to persuade you that something is worth what it isn't. This is a genuine, authentic, wonderfully delivered, quality delivered, official bottling from Knockdhu Distillery of Annoch. 24-year-old single malt. Primarily sherry matured and matured long term, so we're not looking at finishes and coatings and all the rest of it. Because back 24 years ago, when the whisky was produced and first put into the casks, there was no huge global demand for sherry casks, and therefore you still got these old school sherry casks which actually matured sherry for drinking rather than sherry for going on to produce balsamic vinegar. This is a whisky that I wouldn't recommend for beginners. I would say, you're going to enjoy it because it's 24 years old. It's been recommended to you by someone who's experienced. It is expensive, and therefore it must be better because it's cost more. And it looks dark. I mean, it's a wonderful colour. Look at that colour. It's a great colour. That colour's full of flavour. I mean, this is why they add E150 caramel colourant to so many whiskies, because people do taste with their eyes, literally, and if it's darker, it's got more flavour and it's more juicy and it's more Christmas cake and plum pudding, etc., 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 which is simply not necessarily the case. But knowing that comes with experience, and appreciating whiskey is all about experience, and importantly, and I want to stress this, and you can't rush it. You cannot rush it, because there's people find whiskey, maybe have a glass in a bar and it's a wonderful experience and they really enjoy it. And so they go out and buy a bottle, and then because they've bought a bottle and they've talked about it, someone buys them another bottle as a birthday present or a Christmas present or a New Year gift. And that kind of starts to create the whiskey collection. And at this point, there is a steady and methodical acquiring of experience. And this has never been easier than it is now because of the internet. And the internet really has changed everything, because it's made awareness of whiskey clubs, whiskey festivals, and the online retailers much more visible. This is what it's all about. It's about visibility and access. So we're now in an age where there has never been so much information available from different sources, but primarily what people are finding is the most useful information and the most useful point of reference is the internet. Even though what's on the internet is often really just an opinion and a personal perspective and should be treated as such. It is not necessarily the orthodox view of things, which has been given permission. But this is all part and parcel of the journey. I've talked about the journey in the past, and I want to kind of, here in Ralphie Review 999 extras, just go back and sort of redress it a little bit from a slightly different perspective. And it's the perspective of fundamentals. Because fundamentally, the only reason we pay a premium for whiskey and pay all the taxes and endure all the obstructions that get put in our way to buying good whiskey by bafflement and bewilderment of variety and choice, of orthodox marketing, of perhaps the over-persuasiveness of one person who regards themselves as an expert or an authority. I mean, really what this journey is helping to tune us into our own experience that is part and parcel of our own palate. And our palates do vary. Our sense of smell varies. Our sense of taste varies. Not just the fact that some of us have got acutely sensitive noses, as good as master blenders, and that we can pick up all the subtleties fairly quickly. And we could fly around a whiskey festival and say, right, this is that, this the next thing, this is what I'm going for, this is what I'm going to buy. And there's very little ambiguity. It's very decisive. And good luck to the person who can do that, because they're going to learn quickly. It's just like someone learning the martial arts. You know, if they happen to be athletic and have good flexibility and good mind-to-body connection, they're going to learn a lot faster. It's exactly the same with whiskey. But there's three basic stages in our development as whiskey fans. Then I'm going to focus on the primary motivation, which is the pursuit of good whiskey. Now, good whiskey is not just good quality whiskey. It's good quality whiskey at a good price. So it's good whiskey, good price, good event, good result. Just the whole experience is good. And we start as a beginner, and I hope you can read that okay, because my chalkboard's been a little bit... It's not used that often, so it's not like a school chalkboard. I mean, if they even use them these days, I don't know if they do. But this says beginner, and when we go out as a beginner looking for a whiskey, our needs are very simple and they're very easily met. We're looking for something that's tasty and a little bit complex. So we're going to be more than happy to go into the supermarket and get a bottle of Glenfiddich 12-year-old, because it is tasty. And the great thing about Glenfiddich 12-year-old is that it's consistent. It is very identifiable. It is easy to get your bearings around, and it's a great whiskey to start with. Or if you really want to set yourself a challenge, you could start with Laphroaig 10-year-old and just dive straight into the peat monster. But the thing is, when you start with peat monsters and spend some time with peat monsters, other whiskies seem kind of bland. And it's only once your palate gets oversaturated with heavy peatiness, and then you've got a collection of primarily heavily peated whiskies like Ardbeg and Kilchoman and say Lagavulin, that you start to say, well, you know, actually, my palate could use a change, because a change is as good as the rest. And you'll buy a bottle of Glenfarclas because you'll want something that's kind of heavily flavoured. The colour comes from direct fired stills, and at this point, fairly early on in the journey, as we develop our own palates, we're able to graze on the information available to us from whiskey festivals and whiskey clubs, online, on channels and blogs and vogs and Reddit forums. There is so many sources of information, and particularly in whiskey clubs and on online forums, you'll always find the geek, the real anorak that's got experience, that wants to share it with you. And that's good, because they're helping you to shortcut a few disappointing purchases and really get to know what's comfortable for your palate, or what's going to be a positive challenge for your palate. And this is where we come into some experience. When we gather some experience as whiskey drinkers, we're familiar with the initial flavours we're encountered, but now we want more flavour. So we're going initially from Glenfiddich to Glenlivet 12-year-old, which is a good, flavoursome, fresh fruit, intensely flavoured single malt. It's great. It's available. It's accessible. It's certainly affordable, and we're not too bothered by the fact that it's chill filtered and reduced to 40%. Or if you're lucky, it's but 43%. It's still chill filtered. It's not really that important. It's not a big issue at that point. But as you go from some experience to some more experience, you actually start to kind of get caught up in the flavour chase, which is a good thing so long as you're not trying to compete with others and try and out-flavour them in what you notice in the glass, because so many people can end up falling flat in their face with that gimmick. Just keep your own counsel, keep your own view on things, perspective, and just quietly build up, gaining more experience and some experience, going on the flavour chases, discovering new, not just flavours, but the sensations that accompany the flavours of salt, sweet, sour, savoury and bitter. And then at that point, you're engaging with more variety, because you're starting to recognise the readily identifiable flavours of vanilla, toffee and raisin, with the less easy to spot but growing familiarity with sweet, sour and bitter. And with sweet and sour, it's very easy to accommodate when you're starting off with whiskey, but not so much saltiness, bitterness and sourness. Certainly strong sourness is not something which even an experienced whiskey drinker is particularly comfortable with. It's really the very experienced whiskey drinker becomes more comfortable with that. And gets more comfortable with whiskies which express and extend into that territory, like Edredure, like Springbank, like Mortlach, the savoury whiskey range. And another classic, very, very rare whiskey, hard to find, is Avengerich, Red River Distillery in Lewis, which still exists. But it's a wonderfully fusile whiskey, very fusile. It just takes time to get there. It's the same with Edredure. You know, a young Edredure can be a bit feisty, but an old Edredure can be absolutely amazing, really, because these old whiskies, they can go the distance because of not just the range of flavour within them, but the intensity of sensations often outlive the flavours which are diminishing slowly in the cask. But the intensity of sensations, sweet, sour and bitter, they will live on in the cask. They don't get broken down by oxidization so quickly. So you come to the very experienced who are looking for singularity of single malts. What's the real characters in the single malt world? Now, it used to be Macallan, but not now. But here's a great example, Enoch. Sherried version, wonderful character. Not immediately affordable, but for the age, good value if you can find it. Edredure, Springbanks, if you can find them. Kilkerran. If you can't find Springbank, look for Kilkerran. You will find Kilkerran in auctions at an accessible price. There you have it. It's about the knowledge. This is what we're coming to now as very experienced whiskey drinker. You're going for singularity, complexity, and ultimately character. And all this is based on the fact that consciously we've developed much more sophistication in analysing and understanding whiskies and getting more out of it. And it works both ways. You can get the bad out of it as well as the good. But also subconsciously we're so much more experienced in that department, so that subconsciously our mind and smell and taste is just getting much more pleasure out of experiences which to an inexperienced whiskey drinker would be quite unpleasant and confusing. And this is really the journey. It's all about the journey, and the journey is the experience, the accumulation of experience. And importantly, we may refer to other people's experience, but the experience that really matters, fundamentally, first and foremost, is our experience, our personal experience. Hope you've enjoyed this. I'm Ralphie, sharing the information, sharing experience, sharing the journey. Thank you for watching Ralphie Review 999. And if you're interested, on my Patreon subscribers channel, patreon.com, Ralphie, R-A-L-F-Y, I'm hosting a live stream, because I do so every month, sometimes twice a month. And if you're a subscriber, you get access to that. You get extra content. And I may as well mention it now because it's Ralphie Review 999 Extras, and I feel justified in mentioning that it's not just my public YouTube videos that I do online. I have other content. Anyway, that'll do for now. I'll see you for my next review, which will be, let me see now. Well, I've forgotten at the moment. I'll come back to me at some point. Bye.